Hello, everyone. Welcome today to our webinar here with Exclaimer. I'm excited to welcome everyone to Driving Growth in 2023, why email continues to dominate in an omni-channel world. Today, we actually have three very talented marketers in the community. I'm very excited to introduce to you Kelly Haggard, Joy Milkowski, and Victoria Walker. Kelly is actually the VP of Channel Innovation and Optimization at Synchrony. And Joy Milkowski is the founder of Access Marketing, based out of Kansas City. And Victoria Walker is the managing director at AP&C. And so all of these ladies have actually spent their careers with a wealth of marketing background, delving into omni-channel marketing. You know, in today's day and age, email continues to reign in digital communication. And it's still one of the best channels for connecting with audiences, but sometimes it's the forgotten channel, right? It's not something that we think of as a channel for go-to-market strategies. Rather, we're thinking about digital marketing channels and Google Ads and LinkedIn and social and things like that, but or marketing automation and things. But at the core of all of this is email. And things. And so today we're going to dive into omni-channel marketing and email and things and really collaborate around some of the examples and things around the trials and what's worked, what hasn't worked, and things, and kind of collaborate around what these guys have found to work in the industry. So without further ado, I'm actually going to let Victoria dive in and kind of set the stage here for everyone around the staying power of email in digital communication for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you so much for the introduction, and it's great to be here today. So as Ashley has mentioned, hopefully my slides will help to lay the land of where we are at the moment, provide some of the information on the tactics that we're using at the moment, how we can deploy email communications in our marketing world, and then of course lead on to the panel discussions in a little bit. So let's crack on and start with my first slide. So email's continued domination. So from the first ever email sent by Ray Tomlinson in 1971, fast forward 52 years to now, email has stood the test of time, and it still remains a vital part of our communication landscape. Just looking over some of the numbers here, there is still a huge proportion of people sending emails and receiving emails every day globally. And email sends are up by over 4% since last year, and global users is up by nearly 3% since last year, proving the communication form is still very much an essential part of our lives. And even in our agency, you can see that the vast number of emails we send over the last 30 days is huge, it's fast, and this isn't including any of the sends that we've sent from our CRM system. And we'll get into why this is in the next coming slides, and also the panel conversation in a little bit as well. But one of the main reasons why email is not only effective, but it also delivers an impressive ROI, making it a super valuable channel still for businesses to connect with their audience globally and achieve their marketing goals. And the combination between cost effectiveness, the wide reach, the personalization, automation, AI, the data-driven optimization, high engagement rates, they all contribute to this. And by leveraging these factors and continuing to add in additional bits of information effectively, business can really achieve significant ROI through this channel and continue to drive growth through their marketing email efforts. So connecting with audiences, email provides a really unique opportunity to connect with audiences on a personal level. We of course have other platforms as well, like social media and all that kind of stuff, but we can really tailor our messages to suit the individuals and ensuring they're relevant and that they resonate as well. And By personalizing our emails and delivering the targeted content, we all know that we have to target and personalize our emails right, but we can really develop and foster relationships, build trust, and establish that deeper connection. And this personal touch helps us to engage our audience and create those meaningful interactions. The more personalized, the better. And an interesting observation actually as well on this is now the decision-making age group are most probably the recipients who grew up with email as one of their main forms of communication, and it is still their much preferred method of communication now. I mean, we have WhatsApp, we have text message, we have Teams, we have the phone still, and lots of others which do act as direct communication sources, but they never seem to be as successful or as well received in a marketing function. And creating the hyper-personalized content isn't easy, and it's certainly not as easy as it looks to the recipient, but investing a bit more time into research and really having that ABM approach to ensure that it is targeted goes a long way. And I can promise you the results will be better as the recipient wants to feel special, like you know them, that you have that relationship. And targeting and personalization are really the key themes, I think, running across this webinar. So it's really valuable. In today's digital landscape, omni-channel marketing is essential, and email is a key component of this strategy. It complements and enhances other marketing channels. It ensures a consistent experience across the various touch points. And incorporating email into our omni-channel efforts, we can reach our customers wherever they are and deliver a cohesive message that reinforces our brand identity. Email acts as a thread that ties our marketing campaigns together, and the beauty of this is the seamless integration with other marketing strategies as well. I mean, for example, it can support in social media marketing, it can work hand in hand to amplify the reach and the engagement, and for digital marketing as well, such as demand generation and email workflow campaigns. It's also an excellent tool for marketing, for event marketing, so forms of strategy like outbox to inbox, whereby you can invite your attendees with an incredibly considered and targeted approach, especially your VIP guest. And what I mean by this is researching and ensuring what you're promoting is of interest and that you're basing your emails on facts that you know about them. For example, an email to me following this webinar might be, oh, hey, Victoria, I saw you spoke on Exclaimer's webinar the other day about the staying power of email. We're hosting a dinner focused on how you can take your CRM approach to the next level with one of the top industry leaders. Are you interested in joining? And I can definitely assure you I would be interested to join that conversation. And just going back to our integration, these activities are also great and super important for growing out our data list. So to leverage the power of email, I can't stress it enough, but you need to start with a strong foundation, a quality email list, and the data set that you're sending your emails from has to be warm, it has to be clean, and it has to reflect the campaign that you're building. By growing out that list with engaged and permission-based subscribers, ensure you're reaching the receptive audience that you want. And going back to segmentation, it allows our email list to target specific groups with tailored campaigns. You can speak directly to their interests and preferences. By personalizing contents and offers, you can enrich engagement and drive better results, which is what we all want. And in addition to this, it's essential that you analyze the recipient data as well and leverage those behavioral insights to create a more personalized and relevant email messages. Understanding preferences and behaviors helps us deliver the right content at the right time. It's also important to note that micro-segmentation elements such as geolocation, specific location, job title, seasonality, etc., can impact the tone of how you format your emails and how the recipient reads them following your send. So it's a really great consideration point. It usually requires a pretty robust marketing software, but it's extremely effective and extremely doable. And as you can see from my slides, what also supports this is A/B testing. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of A/B testing, but it is such a valuable technique to optimize email performance and, importantly, make those data-driven decisions. By continually testing different elements such as subject lines, call to action buttons, visuals, email layouts, we can determine what resonates best with our audience and then continue to use those in the future. It's really important to analyze those key metrics as well, such as open rates, click-throughs, conversion rates. And once you start to understand that and understand the impact of your testing, you can use that data-driven approach to keep refining email campaigns and again, ultimately driving better results. That's what we all want. So this is my final slide before we go to sort of more of a panel discussion, but I didn't want to death by PowerPoint you all. But email automation and triggered emails, it's a game changer when it comes to streamlining email efforts and improving efficiency. With automation, you can set up workflows that trigger and deliver the right message at the right time, of course, automatically, but globally as well. You don't have to, wait around to sort of like, send the email when it suits you. For instance, welcome emails help promote a positive first impression. Birthday emails allow us to help celebrate our recipients, and abandoned cart messages nudge our customers to complete their purchases. We can also understand and appreciate advocacy and loyalty in our data set, which goes a long way when it comes to targeting and rewarding our customers and also our potentials, which again is really important. Triggered emails are also really powerful because they are based on specific actions, engagement, and behaviors. And of course, this means they are really effective, and it saves you a lot of time as well, so what's not to like? You can also then get into the realms of lead scoring and acting based on that result, which works wonders for campaigns such as demand generation and lead generation. The relevance of trigger emails increase the chance of engagement, conversions, and again, you guessed it, in turn provides better results. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context around the staying power of email before our panel conversations. And I'm sure most of you the tactics that we've just explored, but the execution of some of these can be tricky, and they can be really time consuming as well, especially if you're in the trial and error type phase. But hopefully it's given a little bit of food for thought. So let's just recap quickly on the points that I've discussed. So email has demonstrated its endurance in digital communications. It's crucial in omnichannel marketing, and it can't be overlooked. And if it is, you're definitely missing a trick. And by implementing some of the tactics we've explored, such as building a quality email list, delivering targeted content, leveraging automation, trigger emails, conducting A/B testing, optimizing campaigns, we can fully leverage the power of email to engage our audience, drive conversion, and boost sales, which is exactly what we all want. So I'll pass back over to Ashley.
Thank you, Victoria. I really appreciate it. Okay, so now the fun part really dives in here. So we want to kind of open up the floor here to really dive into some of those examples, right, of real life experiences with the team here, and kind of talk through some of the campaigns that the three of you guys have been running when it comes to email marketing, omni-channel approach, that integrated approach and things. And so, connecting with audiences, obviously, Victoria, you talked a lot about the importance of connecting with an audience and things. Joy, talk to me a little bit about, a campaign that you may have either active in market right now, or one that you guys are working on over at Access, and things, and what it's like, kind of your, thought process and approach to that.
Sure. Great question. And I want to make sure that Angus knows we saw your question in the chat, and we can certainly talk about cold email. Obviously, email is think of it like an arrow in a quiver, right? As a marketer, and I love that Victoria said this, that we have to start with the sales goal in mind. And so what we always try to do is really start with what is the goal that we're trying to accomplish? Is it get mind share with people who already know us and might have forgotten about us? Is it get mind share with people who've never heard of us, don't know us at all, right? Which sort of relates to Angus's question. So we start with the goal, and then we start to go, okay, what channels all are relevant to us? It's interesting because I think email has just become a catch-all word, but email is extremely diverse, different types of emails. In fact, at Access Marketing, we service almost exclusively B2B audiences. So for us, when, we say email, we actually use the specific thing. Are we talking about an HTML brand awareness email? Are we talking about what we call an embellished letter, which looks a little bit more like sending something via letterhead over an email channel? Is it an Outlook style email where we're sending something? Is it an actual individualized one-to-one sales cadence email where we expect the salesperson to send the email one-to-one? So one of the things I think we can all keep in mind is that email is way bigger than just a single thing. It has multiple meanings depending on how you use it. We're working with a really fun campaign right now that's just getting ready to launch. And the email signature and sales cadences, as well as an orchestrated email campaign, were all parts of the process that we used in order to design this campaign. So we didn't think about email as a singular thing. We thought about it in sort of a broader approach. And for our planning purposes, we knew that this would have a social component. So there are DMs via social, right? That are another form of, a form of email, if you will. So we thought about social. We thought about individualized one-to-one email from a salesperson's Outlook. We thought about it from a campaign with marketing automation and how those touch points would happen. There's actually this coincided with a few different live events that have been happening. It's interesting because for us, for this campaign, the cornerstone was really an incredible, really funny video. That's kind of it's what we call the core content of the program. And then everything else we've done has sort of been to support the distribution of this video and just the dissemination of information across multiple people. So if I may offer just sort of a point, then I'll pass the talking stick. It's that, it's not just about email. Email is not just a channel. And honestly, it's not about email. It's about your approach. And I want to echo the things Victoria said. The thing we are really working on, if you have not heard of Smart Brevity and sort of that approach, Smart Brevity is the way to go. Long emails, for us, from a data perspective, haven't performed well. We have to really align with how people consume email. So email is not just a channel, right? It can mean many things, and it's not about the email itself. It's about how you approach it and how you humanize it. So love to pass the talking stick, Ashley.
Yeah, I love that. And Kelly, I know over at Synchrony, you guys are doing a lot of fun things too. And humanizing that experience along the customer journey is something that you talk a lot about as well. So talk to me a little bit about kind of the fun things that you guys are doing over at Synchrony and how you're applying some of those same concepts there too. Oh, I can't hear
I muted myself.
Yep, you're good. You're good. We got you now.
I mean, I did the first one of the meeting, so congratulations. For us, I was thinking about when Victoria was speaking and really taking that first party data and elevating those communications and making them more personalized. We are really focused on not only taking the data signals that we have. One of the tactics I think that's really working well for us is actually doing live polling within the email from our personalization vendor, which is giving us additional first party data to target off of. And going to the omni-channel world, it's beyond just, taking that data and applying it back to another email campaign. We can actually use it across other channels. So they can tell us in we're giving them that opportunity to vocalize what it is that they want and what's next for them. And so when the communications come and they're more highly personalized, we can see a huge lift over a campaign that's more generic. So if you think about maybe a retail store, we know that they're looking to make some smaller purchases, and the purchases are clothing based versus they're going to buy a large appliance. We can make sure that the imagery and the copy reflects what they've already told us. And I think people see that and they see themselves in it, and it's like, wow, how did they, how they forgot that they answered that live poll, and like, oh, wow, this is really relevant to me because it's showing images and things that are specific for what I want. I think that really is a game changer for us and for every business. We think back of the days of long ago when Amazon first started giving us those recommendations. And it was like, how's it doing that? What's happening in the background? And every purchase, it was giving us the relevant stuff. And so now, it's more broad scale. It's a little easier for brands to use it. People are less afraid now to kind of go in that realm and try it. And we really see the effects from doing that in our campaigns.
Yeah, I think that that's awesome, Kelly. And I think that, as you were talking, it reminds me a lot about that interlock too, probably of driving conversation between sales and marketing. You're giving probably a lot of great talking points for sales as well. And so I'd be curious, Victoria, from your standpoint, as our sales friends and things, talk to me a little bit about the relationship between sales and marketing, and as you're building your omni-channel approach and campaigns and things, like what does that look like between sales and marketing, and as you're leveraging these types of tactics, like how are you communicating that through to sales and your BDRs or SDRs and marketers and things? What does that look like?
Absolutely. I mean, we are a full marketing agency. We specialize in B2B tech. Predominantly our clients, our customers are the marketing teams, but it is so important that we're communicating with the sales teams as well when we're having that direct correlation. It's knowing the conversion and how those conversations are forming after we've passed the leads across. So after we've done a certain marketing campaign, a demand generation campaign, omni-channel campaign, email campaign, whatever that looks like, whether we're halfway through the campaign or finished their campaign, once we're passing leads across, the feedback that we're getting from the sales teams is so important, and actually then we can reflect that back into our marketing approach. So for example, if we've got a really great strong lead, and there's sort of like certain elements that we can touch on, we can continue to develop and nurture, then fantastic. But equally, there needs to be that correlation between marketing and sales, and having the understanding of what the sales team wants and what the marketing team wants and what we can do to support that is, it's super important.
Yeah, I love that. And Joy, I know that you talked a little bit about like outreach and sales loss sequences and things. So talk to me a little bit about how that kind of interlays into your campaign approach and things.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the more we can empower sales to realize that it's a progression, right? It's not an individual event. And I know it's really funny. Probably those of you on the call who are marketers probably think, yeah, of course, but I don't know how many of you work with salespeople who I really legitimately think they rub the lamp and a genie comes out and grants them 3 leads. And it's really kind of this misalignment of expectations of what marketing is trying to do is obviously build awareness, generate interest, monitor intent. Like we do a lot with intent monitoring around email and things like that based on what they're doing with the emails and things like that. But we've got to pass that along to sales, usually in sort of an embryonic state, right? I don't know about the other marketers on the call, but I've not been experiencing the hand raisers that I did 3 years ago, certainly 5 years ago or more, right? Where we offer great content online, they fill out a form, and now I've got a lead. That is not the reality for many of our clients. Many of our clients, right? We put out great content and we're seeing that they're consuming the content, but it's crickets in terms of engagement and especially with form completion. So what we partner with sales to realize is when we pass along a name, an account, it does not necessarily mean they are already a hand raiser. It means that they are showing intent, right? There are signals that they are in a research mode or an early stage. And our expectation is that the sales team, whether this is BDRs or SDRs, or whether it's truly more of a strategic seller, would then start the process, the cadence of social touches and connections, email, potentially a handwritten note, a phone call, going to an event, things like that. So for us, utilizing email as one of the ways that we use in a sales cadence, but use it smartly, right? Don't Don't, take that intent, engaged account and all of a sudden just bury them under, do you want to buy? Do you want to buy? Do you want to buy? Can we meet? Can we meet? Can we meet? Right? It's really more about really offering value. We use this thing, and Ashley, you're familiar with it. It's the give method. And you should always be giving value. Always, always, always. And I should never be asking you for something unless I've given you more value than I'm asking you for, which is why, we tell folks in our sales cadences, your first few emails should not ask them for anything. It should be passing along thought leadership, data, things like that. Only when you've earned the right to either ask them, hey, would it be helpful if I sent you, let you talk with one of our other customers to understand the value? Or could I do a calculation or an executive brief for you specifically with your inputs, right? I want to try to offer them value before I ask them for something. So actually circling all the way back around to your question about sales cadences and sales orchestration, email is an imperative part of our sales cadences, but not to the exclusion of the other things. And to our point that we will keep coming back to, it's got to be short, authentic, and always drive value.
I love that. I love that. The give method is one of my favorite things. And any way that we can provide value, I think that it helps position, especially, my history and career and things like positioning IT leaders as the hero, right? Like they're seen as the cost center and things. And so if we can help position them and enable them to empower them to come to the table, like take that burden off of their shoulders and really help them, I think that that's how we can help elevate them and amplify their message and things. And so that's where the magic happens. But you're right. I mean, in this day and age, like everyone is being challenged to do more with less. Yeah. And so it's how can we enable to work smarter, not harder, to your point. So, let's pivot just slightly and talk through another example. I'm sure everyone is maybe would like to talk through another campaign example. Kelly, let's talk through another campaign example, specifically talking through maybe some A/B testing examples over at Synchrony, maybe some ones that worked, ones that haven't, and things, trial and error and things, because I think it's important, just as importantly as it is to talk through the ones that are working. One of my favorite things that Marco, our CEO, has talked a lot about is one of the worst things we can ever do is not try, right? Like, and things, and we would much rather fail trying than not try at all. And so that's why as marketers, we love to A/B test everything, right? So anyway, so I'd like to maybe run through a couple of different A/B testing examples that you guys have done, especially because you've, I feel like, really mastered that humanizing experience over at Synchrony.
Yeah, A/B testing is interesting. I think that sometimes you get people that A/B test for the sake of testing. And so they test once, they report on it, and then they never use what they learned from that test ever again. That's probably the most frustrating thing ever. So it's champion, challenger, just keep going. Once you get that stuff tested out and you have some learnings and the winner and it's clear, then put it into production across your other campaigns. I think the other thing sometimes is people test and they change too many things between the champion and the challenger. And then they go, okay, it won. Like, great. Well, what was it that won? So I think we really drive home here is the idea of testing out maybe one or two elements to the campaign where you want to do some changes to it. We tested out one with putting an emoji in the subject line. I think is a great example. And so it's we did a clock. It was related to a specific promotion. It was very highly converting. It was pre-Apple iOS. It was heads and tails above the other version of it. So then we're like, okay, great. Our hypothesis was that the emoji was going to drive more opens. So our next one we put a dog emoji. Well, if you look at the dog emoji, it's not consistent across every phone experience. So some you could tell it was a dog, others it just looked like some weird blob that was part of the subject line, and that was negative over the other. So I think it's also being very clear on what your hypothesis is and being willing to go back and look at it and be flexible. If, you know, the reality is the clock message drove that sense of urgency, the dog message just drove confusion. People are like, what is this? I think that's a good one to learn from, because your hypothesis going into it may change when you go back and continue to test in it. I always say test colors, test wording, call to action buttons. You know, orange isn't in our color brand, but I remember there was a study done a long time ago that an orange call to action button is going to be higher converting than something else. And so, you know, sometimes you've also got to be willing to take a little bit of a risk and go outside brand guidelines to try some of the things out that you think will work. A favorite one always was that sad puppies convert. And people laugh when I say that, but we worked with an agency and I remember them saying they did so many things for like an abandoned cart email, and then they put a sad puppy in there and everybody just felt bad. And they got a ton of conversion off of it. So that one is like, I think, very interesting. And then I'll leave you with another A/B testing that we did prior to me starting at Synchrony. Is I worked for a brand that had a call center, and they decided instead of the traditional abandoned cart, it was going to be like, hey, did something go wrong? So our hypothesis was for a small group of people that are going in to buy the item, they have an issue. Their internet crashes, they end up closing it. And so it was an email that was like, hey, you're having an issue. And we put a specific person. So we took the call center employee of the month and put their picture and name in there and said, this person's standing by waiting. It worked in a way that we weren't expecting, and people saved that email and they would call and ask for that person 24/7. And that wasn't what we were trying to do. We were like, you know, so-and-so standing by. They're like, okay, well, I need to call and ask for this person. And so I think you get learnings sometimes that you weren't expecting. The campaign itself did really well. We ended up stopping it because that poor person was getting inundated with most of the calls coming in when people were calling into the call center. So, you know, what you are expecting to get out of your test sometimes is not always what you get out of it. But it gives you that information very quickly. Email gives it to you so quickly for you to be able to make pivots and adjust.
I love that. And that's so true. Sometimes I talk a lot about that marketing is a science, right? Like we have our hypothesis and we predict what we think is going to happen, but a lot of times it doesn't result in what we think is going to happen. And so, but that's why we set it out. So I love to learn from what we think and things, and I'm totally fine with being proven wrong. So Victoria, I would love to hear from you as well around some of your A/B testing examples and things. What have you seen worked? What's one of maybe your favorite?
Yeah. I mean, I do have an example, but it's not actually one that I've deployed, but I thought it was quite interesting. It was I've seen a couple of them actually relatively recently where there might have been something wrong that's gone out in the initial email. And then in the subject line, it just says, oops, our bad, or oops, we made a mistake, or something like that. And, you know, I'm guilty. I click on it because I want to try and, you know, see what's gone wrong and sort of like see if I can identify the differences between the first email I got sent out and the one that was like, oh, whoops. And sometimes I'm pretty sure it could just be a tactic because I can't see a fault sometimes. So, but it definitely makes me click on it, which is interesting. But an example that we've done at AP&C is relatively recently, where we've invited some attendees to a roundtable event, and it's always interesting inviting very senior, you know, C-level people to a dinner because the schedules are busy, right? You know, they don't often want to sort of like travel, you know, to an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is to go to a roundtable discussion. So it's it's been playing around with, you know, how we can really interact and how we can engage, and how, going sort of back to my slides, how we can resonate with VIP C-level individuals. And what we found is, like we've spoken about, and you know, like the theme of this webinar is sort of like forming, is the hyper segmentation and personalization. So building out that data set and understanding if they have gone to an event before previously like it, or who their connections are on LinkedIn, who they potentially follow, who they're interested in, and actually working that into the email sometimes as well. So if we have an email, a data set of 100, 200, 300 people who like to invite to the roundtable, but we know we're only going to get sort of, you know, 15, 20 people, but it's understanding what makes them tick. Why would they want to come to this dinner? Why are their insights so valuable? And it's feeding that as well. And so sort of adding, getting their value add as well. So you know, it's what can they bring to the webinar, getting their expertise as well as what they're interested in. So sort of like feeding their interests, feeding the reasons why they'll be great to come and to talk and to sort of like develop out what that discussion could look like as well. And also sort of like, of course, playing around with subject lines too. So venues make great subject line sometimes. If you've got a lovely venue in London, or, you know, somewhere else that's quite prestigious, put that in the subject line. That always works wonders.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, one of the, I guess, maybe elemental A/B tests we've done is just in B2B specifically is HTML versus Outlook style.
Yeah.
Right. And for us, Outlook style so amazingly outperforms HTML. It really, as marketers listening on this call, if you're in a B2B setting, you should really think twice before sending anything via, and like I said, what I'm calling HTML, which looks like a heavily designed visual, kind of almost magazine style email, versus just a plain old Outlook. It's your signature, you know, and that's it. And it's, I see some heads nodding on this. You know, just almost zero tolerance for HTML emails in a B2B setting. Would you guys agree with that?
I completely agree. And actually that is part of the testing that we have done recently, Joy. It's sending out through our CRM system, and you do bulk email sending and see what the results look like from that. And then actually the direct Outlook approach, and 100% you always get the better conversion from the personalized outbox to inbox style messaging. 100%. Completely agree.
Yeah, I think we even, some of our latest research even shows it's like a 90% open rate of like that Outlook approach versus not, right? Which is insane. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with you, Joy. Especially because it just gives that more tailored approach, right? And things. And so even as marketers, it like pains us to say that, right? And so, but it just is more that high value touch approach. And so I think that makes more sense for us. So, well, Angus has asked a really powerful question. And so I would love to ask this to the group, because I think that when it comes to list building and emails, this is, you know, a very important part of the process, right? And so it's not an easy one. You know, there's a lot of tools out there. Obviously, LinkedIn is an important process or component of our BDRs and our outreach and things. But so Angus has asked a great question in terms of like, essentially, like, how are you ladies doing it, right? What's your approach and things? And so talk to me about what your approach is to list building when it comes to a higher quality approach, especially post-COVID world. So, you know, I think people are inundated these days from a inbox approach in LinkedIn right now, and are feeling fatigued being, pounded from that standpoint. And so obviously email is, the right approach and things, but how do you control that quality of email? So Joy, talk to me a little bit about the approach that you guys take at Access.
Sure. I think it has to start with segmentation, period. Segmentation. I think one of the things marketers get wrong, and I hear the word list building, and to be completely honest, it makes my skin itch, because I feel like as marketers, we need to be focusing on the narrowest group of people for whom my message is relevant. And that could be even down to the DMU level within an account, right? I need to talk to the CFO differently than I need to talk to the CTO differently than I need to talk to the COO and things like that. So to me, list building to me sounds more macro than I think any of us intend it to be. It needs to be, have I defined my ideal client profile, my ICP, right? Have I, within my ICP, do I really have the members of the DMU that participate in the decision? And do I have a compelling story and point of view? Once I have those things, then I can start saying, okay, who on my list, who do I already have that matches that, or who don't I have that I need to go get? And you take it in a more micro setting than you do macro. I do want to take maybe a contrarian point of view to something that Angus did say, which is I don't feel like LinkedIn is not a valid thing. I think dirtbag salespeople need to stop using it in a way that's going to ruin it for the rest of us, right? I think if you go out to people with email, LinkedIn, or whatever, with it, Victoria gave a great example. Hey, Victoria, I saw you on this webinar. You gave some really insightful points. Wow, I'd love to learn more from you. I hope we can connect, right? That's not me trying to sell her anything. That's me genuinely creating a connection. And then from there, I can breadcrumb that relationship. And I can do the same thing via email, where I call them dirtbag salespeople, is they try to do too much on the first touch. Settle down, like build a relationship, add value, then go. Okay, so that's my soapbox. I'll climb down off of it.